Welcome in the second video on John Keats. In this video I am going to explain his poetry Ode to Autumn. I am Dr. Vinita Bhadoria, Associate Professor of English, Government College, Behror. This video is useful for the students of BA Part 2 and this belongs to Paper 1, Poetry and Drama. In this video, I am going to discuss about the background of the poem, literary devices he has used, style and structure and theme of the poem. Ode to Autumn was composed on 19th September 1819 and published in 1820 in a volume of Keats' poetry that included Lamia and the Eve of St. Agnes. This is the final work in a group of poems known as Keats' 1819 Odes. This poem marks the end of his poetic career as he needed to earn money and could no longer devote himself to the lifestyle of a poet. A little over a year after the publication of To Autumn, Keats died in Rome. The poem has 3 stanzas of 11 lines each, which describe a progression through the season, from the late maturation of the crops to the harvest and to the last days of autumn when winter is nearing. To Autumn is a lyric on autumn season. The poet describes the rich beauty of the season, its color, fruits, and the earth. Unlike other poets of autumn, it does not develop the feelings of melancholy. Autumn is here not pictured as the season of death and decay. According to the poet, autumn is the season of happiness and beauty. Autumn is personified here in the form of a woman in the farm of a farmer, gleaner, and orchardman. The imagery is richly achieved through the personification of autumn and the description of its bounty, its sights and sounds. In its 3 stanzas, it describes 3 different aspects of the season: its fruitfulness, its labor, and its ultimate decline. Through the stanza, there is a progression from early autumn to mid autumn and then to the heralding of winter. Parallel to this, the poem depicts the day turning from morning to afternoon and into dusk. These progressions are joined with a shift from the tactile sense to that of sight and then of sound, creating a 3-part symmetry which is not present in Keats' other odes. As the poem progresses, autumn is represented metaphorically as one who conspires, who ripens fruit, who harvests, who makes music. The first stanza of the poem represents autumn as involved with the promotion of natural process, growth, and ultimate maturation, 2 forces in opposition in nature, but together creating the impression that the season will not end. In this stanza, the fruits are still ripening and the buds still opening in the warm weather. Stuart Sperry says that Keats emphasizes the tactile sense here, suggested by the imagery of growth and gentle motion, swelling, bending, and plumping. In the second stanza, autumn is personified as a harvester, to be seen by the viewer in various guises, performing laboring tasks essential to the provision of food for the coming year. There is a lack of definite action, all motion being gentle. Autumn is not depicted as actually harvesting but as seated, resting, and watching. The personification of autumn is as an exhausted laborer Near the end of the stanza, the steadiness of the gleaner again emphasizes a motionless within the poem. The progression through the day is revealed in actions that are all suggestive of the drowsiness of afternoon. The harvested grain is being winnowed, the harvester is asleep or returning home, the last drop issue from the cider press. The last stanza contrasts autumn sound with those of spring. The sounds that are presented are not only those of autumn, but essentially the gentle sounds of the evening. Gnats wail and lambs bleat in the dusk. As night approaches, within the final moments of the song, death is slowly approaching alongside the end of the year. The full grown lambs, like the grapes, gourds, and hazelnuts, will be harvested for the winter. The twittering swallows gather for departure, leaving the fields bare. The whistling redbreast and the chirping cricket are the common sounds of winter. The references to spring and growing lambs and the migrating swallows remind the reader that the seasons are a cycle, widening the scope of this stanza from a single season to life in general. So we can say the last stanza contrasts autumn sounds with those of spring. The sounds that are presented are not only those of autumn, but essentially the gentle sounds of the evening. The first stanza deals primarily with the atmosphere of autumn, while the second addresses autumn in the style of a female goddess, with the dress of the homemaker about her. And the third stanza and the last stanza goes back to the beauty of autumn, advising her not to mourn or loss of springtime, for there is simple life in autumn. According to the poet, autumn is the season of happiness and beauty, as I said you before. Autumn is personified here in the form of woman, in the form of farmer, gleaner, and an orchard man. Poetry and sculpture are blended together, and the spirit of autumn is seen by the poet as is seen by a Greek artist with a firm outline and a graceful shape. Ode to Autumn is one of the most beautiful poems of the KEATS. The main themes into autumn are the power of nature, the passage of time, and the consolation of beauty. The power of nature, the poem expresses reverence and awe for the great changes wrought by nature as autumn brings its richness to the landscape. Passage of time means the stages of autumn are illustrated by the poem's three stanzas from ripening to harvesting to the turn towards winter. And the consolation of beauty, Keats' lines celebrate the great beauty of autumn even as they evoke a somber sensibility. The selection of this season implicitly takes up the other ode's themes of temporarily mortality and change. Autumn in Keats' ode is the time of warmth and plenty, but it is perched on the brink of winter desolation. As the bees enjoy late flowers, the harvest is gathered from the fields, etc. The contentment, the natural world, and the passing of time are the major themes grounded in the poem. Each stanza represents the different stage to autumn. The first stanza unfolds the start of autumn. The second describes the harvest time, and the final stanza gives us a clue about the departure of the season. It is through the powerful and rich description of these stages the speaker shows his contentment in life. He knows that fleeting time is bringing him close to his end, but he remains hopeful and enjoys the beauty of life with true spirit. The first four lines of each stanza follow the regular rhyme scheme AB AB, but the other 7 show more variation, with lines 9 and 10 having rhyming couplets, echoing back to a rhyme earlier in each stanza. The use of imagery makes the reader visualize the writer's feeling and emotions. Keats' imagery evokes the perception of sight, hearing, smell, tastes. And for instance, in the first stanza, he uses visual imagery such as thatch-eyed, mossed cottage trees, the granary floor, plump the hazel shells, and full-grown lambs. There is also olfactory sense of smell imagery in the second stanza, such as fume of puppies and sweet kernel. Tactile imagery is used in the last stanza, such as clammy shells and winnowing winds. Poet has used personification to give human characteristic to non-human things in the opening lines of the poem. Season of mist and mellow fruitfulness, close bosom friends of the maturing sun. He personifies autumn season and the sun by calling them friends, as if these abstract things are human with intimate relation. So it is a personification. He has make use of metaphors and simile. Simile is used to compare an object, animal or person, with another object or person or animal to make its meaning clear. Keats has used simile in the 19th line and sometimes like a gleaner thou dost keep. Here he compares autumn with a person who gathers the remaining food from the field. He make use of apostrophe. What is an apostrophe? It is a device used to call somebody from afar. The poet has used this device in the 12th line, where it is stated, "Who hath not seen thee oft amid thy store?" In this line, the poet directly addresses the imaginary character autumn. Yes, poem is highly symbolic. Poet has used a lot of symbols in the poem. He symbolizes autumn with a woman. The sun symbolically stands for a male. Similarly, gathering swallow symbolizes the end of autumn. The poem in itself is used as a representative of natural world. The poem explores the beauty of autumn in 3 different stages. First, autumn is friendly conspirator and collaborates with the sun to bring richness, ripeness, and fullness to the fruits. Secondly, it is a witness who sees the end of ripening and the completion of harvest. Thirdly and finally, it is represented as a musician who plays sweet melodies. Thus, poet glorifies autumn with all its bloom and shows no pain and miseries running in this season. However, what appeals the reader is the splendid description of autumn and the message that autumn is not always melancholic, that means gloomy, sad, and also has its own pleasures. The poet also make frequent use of assonance and consonance. What are assonance and consonance? Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds in the same line, and consonance is the repetition of consonant sounds in the same line, or such as the sound of T. The literary point of view, I have tried to make clear. Few words I'm using again and again stanza. What is a stanza? Stanza is the poetic form of some lines. Rhyme scheme. Again, I have used this word. The rhyme scheme of each stanza in this ode is A B A B C D E C C C E. End rhyme is used to make the stanza melodious. Poet has used end rhyme CE in this poem, such as in the first and second line of the first stanza. The rhyming words are fullness, bless, sun, run. These are the same rhyming words. Iambic pentameter means it is a type of meter consisting of 5 iambs. The meter of the poem is generally iambic pentameter, such as among the rivers, swallows, pond, all. Again and again for you. In the last, I can say, Ode to Autumn is one of the most beautiful poems of Keats. There is a fine observation of the world of nature and an exquisite pictorial quality. The first two stanzas are a description of autumn, personifying it in various ways as a winnower, a reaper, and a gleaner. The third compares autumn with the other seasons. So, this is all in this video. Thank you, students. In the next video, I will explain poem to you. Thank you very much.